The first harmonic of 50 hertz is going to be what? 50 hertz. That's right. That's right. The first harmonic is actually the same as the fundamental. The first overtone of 50 hertz is going to be what?
100.
100. What's the next one?
150.
150. And the next one? Okay. We see what's going on here. So the first harmonic, second harmonic, and third and so on, blah, 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 is the same as, we got 2 times the fundamental, 3 times the fundamental,
74
4 times the fundamental, oops, 5 times the fundamental, and so on and so forth. All harmonics that follow this harmonic series are always going to be some type of integer multiple of the fundamental frequency. Now with overtones, they can go either way. Overtones are kind of like partials in a way, only they don't relate in that integer multiple. It's just a random overtone. Like if you know, when you listen to a bell and you hear that when someone hits a chime bell or something, there's a lot of really high frequency stuff that goes on, but it has no relation to the fundamental frequency. Those are just random overtones. Those are called partials. So a partial is just an overtone that's a random overtone with no integer multiple of the fundamental. Just happens to be some effect that's created from making that sound. If it's a bell, if it's a hit, it's a part
of it.
It's a part of it, yeah. Hence the name partial. It's a part of the harmonic series, but not as multiples of the fundamental. Can I say multiples anymore? I think I've said it enough. Yeah. Yeah. Harmonics and overtones are basically the same. They both follow that integer multiple of the fundamental, but partials are just random. All right. Who can give me a good definition for pitch? How do we, or what's another word for pitch? Frequency, okay. Pitch is how we perceive frequency, pretty much. Pitch is either high or low. It's just the number of cycles per second that produce a tone that we recognize as a pitch to our ears in music terms. It's just the musical term for frequency. So it's basically the same thing. Now, with that in mind, all frequencies have a pitch?
No.
No or yes? No, they do not. If I play a 20,000 hertz tone, does that have a musical pitch associated with that? No. Maybe for dogs, but not for us. But every pitch does have a specific frequency. If I play an A on the piano, the middle A, it has a frequency of 440 hertz. But if I keep going up and up and up and up and up the register until I'm at 18,000 something, is that an A? I guess by technically the number of oscillations per second, but we don't hear it as an A, we probably won't even hear it. So it has no pitch. So once again, pitch is how we perceive frequency. How about a melody?
An arrangement of pitches.
Yep, that's a great definition. And a series of pitches in some sort of arrangement where the pitch changes and it goes up or it goes down. You know, it's basically any type of arrangement or pitches played one right after the other. So a series of pitches played one after the other. Most of the time in some kind of key. You know, it makes sense. It's not just going to be, you know, like a telephone beeping going on. Okay, frequency. What is the definition for frequency? Oscillations per second, cycles per second. Basically, how many times does that wave oscillate for every given second? What do we measure frequency in?
Hertz.
That's exactly right. There's probably be 2 points that you'll get correct if you say number of cycles per second and it's measured in hertz. Good answer. Short and sweet. How about spectrum? See my book definition just in case.
Space.
Space, the final frontier.
Space.
These are the voyages of the Star. Okay. Big Star Trek fan, by the way.
It's cool.
How about if I could get a book definition, the distribution of sound energy over the audible frequency range. So, what does that mean? It's whatever we hear from 20 to 20,000 hertz, whatever falls within that spectrum, within whatever falls, or whatever energy falls within that audible frequency range is going to be considered within that spectrum. So, sound energy and the audible frequency range. Or more specifically, the distribution of sound energy. All right, how about an octave? Might have a couple pitches or a couple tones written down, and you have to tell me the relationship between the two. Are they an octave or are they not an octave? How do we know if they're an octave compared to each other?
Trying to see a tone that has a double frequency.
Okay, you both got it. Anything that has, if you take one frequency and double it, that resulting frequency is going to be an octave higher than the original frequency. Vice versa, if you take that same frequency and half it, that's one octave lower than that original frequency. So if one tone has twice or half the number of vibrations per second, that tone or those two tones are considered an octave apart. So either a doubling of frequency or halving of frequency is going to give you an octave. Questions? Does that make sense? What's an octave of 250 hertz?
500.
255, yeah. I had to do the math. That's absolutely right. And an octave below 250?
125.
125. Easy way to remember this stuff, all the EQ points on golden ears and the quizzes are always an octave away from each other, starting at 32 hertz. So 32, the next octave is 64, the next octave is 125, 250, 500, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16K.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah. So that's an easy way to remember, what an octave is. It's just, those are the standard EQ points on a graphic EQ. They're always an octave. Alright, how about psychoacoustics? What is that all about?
Study of human perception of sound.
The way we perceive sound, and what'd you say?
Same.
The study of human perception of sound.
Except the
Yep.
better
Study of
version.
human perception of sound. Now, do we each hear the same sound the same way?
Nope.
No. Because of the way our ears are developed, the way we've grown up, the way we've listened to things, each sound that we perceive individually as our own. You don't hear the same things that I hear. Although the same things might be playing, you probably hear it in a different way. Now, how measurable a different way? Probably pretty minuscule, unless you've been standing in front of a Marshall full stack all your life with the speaker here, just playing away. Which I actually know a bunch of guitar players that do that, and now they're deaf as hell. I said, I told you so, but they can't hear me.
It would suck something terrible if we heard everything completely different.
Yeah, you'd imagine, if you get any kind of hearing damage, you're pretty much screwed in this industry. Now, they do have hearing aids, and there are engineers out there, especially when you start getting up there and you're naturally losing those higher frequencies, they have hearing aids that sound engineers can kind of get acclimated to and mix with. But most of the people, as you get older, you learn how to acclimate even though you're losing that high frequency. You can still know what sounds right and what sounds wrong. It's just over time training your ear type thing. Alright, questions about psychoacoustics? How about timbre? What's that all about?
The character of the sound.
Character of the sound? What's another one? What were you going to say?
The reason each instrument sounds different. I couldn't think of a definition of that. It was like
What makes each instrument have a different timbre?
overtones.
The overtones in the harmonic series. It can be playing the same fundamental frequency, but a violin playing it sounds very different from a guitar, mainly because the overtone series or harmonic series for that violin pluck or that guitar pluck are two vastly different things. And that basically makes up the tonal quality of that sound, or otherwise the tonal characteristics of that sound. So in essence, timbre is the quality, the characteristic, anything having to do with how that sound sounds, like tonal-wise. Does that make sense? And the only things that really determine the different timbre from one instrument to the next are harmonics, or overtones.
Si, senor.
All right. Okay, kind of concepts. We already talked about the relationship between pitch and frequency. We talked about how to calculate overtone series of a given fundamental frequency. We already talked about timbre. Okay, what's I thought I had masking as a definition that I was supposed to be up there, but what is masking? Covering. One sound covering another. That's absolutely right. So what do we hear this mostly arranged in? Kick drums and bass guitars, or just a lot of really distorted guitars, or vocals and strings. Anything that has a lot of sound energy in the same frequency range, and they're both competing in that range at the same level, one's going to stand out more than the other. And normally it's going to be whatever's just a hair louder. It's going to completely mask the other, so we won't really notice it or perceive it as much. So one sound obscuring another. What do we do to fix this?
For guitars or vocals and strings, you could track
Panning. So you could pan them into different speakers or different outputs, so they're no longer fighting in that frequency range. If I pan one guitar hard left and one guitar hard right, they're not masking anymore because we've got an entire left speaker to play back that one guitar and an entire right speaker to play back that right guitar. They're not having to fight over one speaker.
Or you can just mute the less talented side.
Or you can mute the sucky one. That's very true. Just turn down the suck knob on it. One of these days, I really want to make a plug-in that just says the suck knob. let me turn this less suck or more suck. That would be fun. But I don't know anything about computer, and I know. But one of my favorite plugins out there is the Listen plugin. Have y'all ever heard of that? Have I talked about it before? Yeah, it's just called Listen plugin. It's a free plugin by Massey Plugins. And all it does is it blacks out the screen, and it says listen. So you actually have to listen to the music instead of watching the waveforms and watching the meters jump. This wonderful new mixing age we've come in, we're all sitting in front of computer screens, and we use frequency analyzers and meters to do our mix for us instead of just sitting there listening to the damn thing. So that's why I really like that plugin, because I feel like that's kind of getting lost as we progress further and further into this.
At least it's free. And show you what kind of world we were in if it wasn't.
They have a bunch of free plugins too, and the demos never expire. Massey plugins, yeah, I use them all the time. Massey. Love my little tangent. This guy used to work for DigiDesign, and he really hated how they do business. Wonder why. But anyways, he decided to make his own company and do everything the right way. All those plugins are super cheap. They sound great. And the demos never expire, like I said. Now, there are some limitations with the demos, but you can still do almost all the functions with it. Like, some of them you can't bypass, or some of them you can't work at higher sample rates. So anyways, check those out. Okay, so we've got panning for masking. What's another thing we can do? EQ. We can actually carve out areas in the frequency spectrum to make both of those competing objects or sounds fit with each other. That's like what we were doing with the kick drum and the bass guitar. Where I would boost on the kick drum, I would cut a little bit on the bass guitar. So the bass isn't fighting in that range anymore. Now, since we lost a little bit of the bass guitar by doing that, I'll boost in something else. Say if I boosted the kick drum at 60, I'll cut the bass at 60, and boost the bass around maybe 80 or 90 or 100 even, just to give it some more purr to it, some more meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes. And then I'll vice versa go back to the kick drum and cut around that 80 or 90, whatever I boosted on the bass, so we've got more room in it for the mix. So both are cutting through, but I didn't have to fight a fader, and I didn't have to pan it.
It's really quick kind of tangent, not really a hammer question, kind of related.